Titanic Talk with Nelson Aspen and Alexandra Boyd. Here we feature stories from the independent documentary Ship of Dreams Titanic movie diaries and everything else to do with the iconic ship. From James Cameron's epic groundbreaking movie to the history and legacy of Titanic herself. Join us and our special guests as we continue the 25th anniversary celebrations of Titanic. This is your first-class ticket to everything aboard the Ship of Dreams.
I'm Nelson Aspen, and we can't believe that we're coming up on the end of our first season of Titanic Talk with nearly 24 episodes. And sometimes, you know, you have to really pursue somebody for a while, and it takes 20 episodes to get them, and the schedule's coordinated, and we've worked it out. Alexandra Boyd, my co-host, the filmmaker behind Ship of Dreams, Titanic movie diaries, and one of the stars of James Cameron's 1997 Titanic. Who do we have today?
I'm very excited because we had to dig into the bowels, into the depths of Titanic to reach...
Don't say bowels.
Well, it's the bottom part of the boat, but the most important part, because the stokers who were shoving coal into the furnaces to keep on track and keep on schedule for Titanic. And one of those stokers, one of the most recognizable and memorable, is Derek Lee, stuntman and actor. Welcome to Titanic Talk.
Yay!
He's sitting
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, well, I've been fascinated. I've watched again the film recently, obviously for research for my documentary, and I realized that you really are there a lot. You have this wonderful moment when they run, Jack and Rose run past you in that piece of chiffon that I always am amazed never catches fire as they go past you, and then something happens in a car. But then it turns into this moment that was reminiscent to me of The Abyss, actually, where the doors start to come down and you do that thing where you're shoving the guys through to the other side, and then at the very end on the Carpathia, there you are, smoking a fag. You survived.
And that's all true, apparently. So
yes. The main stoker, the lead stoker guy, he did stay till the last possible minute, but he did also survive by clinging to a collapsible.
the only injustice I've done him really is he came from Liverpool, and my Italian accent is absolutely terrible. And when I auditioned, I said, do I have to do a Scouse accent? And they went, no, it's all right. No one will ever know. But
walk us through your audition process, because I know you as an incredible stunt man, stunt performer and coordinator. But you auditioned for Simon. Were you working with Simon Crane already, or did they call you in saying, no, we need this burly bloke to play this stoker?
The film had already started. How long ago is it now? It's
1996. Cast your mind back.
Now, he works so much, you never stop working. So Titanic is just one of the many feathers in your cap.
I can't remember what I did last week, let alone 25 years ago.
James Bond, Bourne Ultimatums, all of that stuff. Doctor Who,
Wonder Woman.
I don't know whether I'm sure there wasn't self-taping, but I auditioned in London. I got a call from the casting director, and I can't remember who that was. But you probably know that.
Mally Finn or Emily Schweber, who would have been her associate, yes.
Right, and I don't know whether I had to go and audition. I don't think I self-taped. Anyway, I did the audition, and then about 3 days later, it had to go back and forwards to the States. I got a call, you've got the part. So that was it. I think Simon must have put me up as part of, because obviously more stunt people that can act that's down there, we can stay right in amongst the action. So that's how that's how it all started. But
did you do any other stunts besides playing the stoker?
Yeah. But because I was featured so heavily, I jumped off the top of the ship. That was about 70 foot, I think, into the water, or the poop deck stuff. But I had to be disguised because they said you've got to keep your face out of camera, because you can't be Frederick Barrett 1 minute and then like A another the next. So
you are the guy that does the spin. Everybody loves the guy that falls, and then I'm sure it's CGI, but he spins, he bounces off the propeller, doesn't he?
some of it's CGI, but some of them did take quite a tumble, and there was a couple of broken bones here and there.
Well, it's
So,
stunt work, though, right? I mean,
yeah, but it's still supposed to be relatively safe.
Well, I'm impressed that you're not just a stuntman who looks the part, but that you are an accomplished actor. And I was reading that on your website bio that you took it upon yourself to make sure you studied acting. So when do you get to exercise that? I find it unusual to meet a stuntman who's had a career as long as yours, because the very nature of stunt work, it's like being a professional athlete. It shortens your span of workability. So tell me about that, about how you keep not only fresh and working, but being both an actor and a stunt person.
I'll tell you how I got into the acting first. To be a member of the British Stunt Register, you have to have a full equity card. That's like a SAG card, but we call it equity. And back then, and this is in 1987, it was called Catch 22. The union was really strong. You couldn't work without the card, and you couldn't get a card without work. So a friend of mine was going to drama school, and she said, listen, the woman that owns the drama school, because this is inadvertently leading on to another story, she's going to be buying her own theatre, and if you get in, if you audition and you get in, she'll guarantee you an equity card at the end of it by doing stage management. I can fill it up like that. So that's sort of what happened, and that was called Red Roost Theatre School in Maidenhead, and Kate Winslet went there. So that's how when I first met Kate. So I got my equity card, I got onto the register, and I sort of carved out a niche for myself for being able to play the part and do the stunt.
Yeah.
So and not many people, there are a few now, but not many stunt people could act at that time. So I was sort of cleaning up, and I got some sort of really good little cameo parts in some quite major films. Titanic.
Talk about some of the films that you've worked on in that respect, where you got like a little speaking role, but then you could do a tumble or fall off a 70-foot drop off the back of Titanic.
I can't remember them all, Alexandra, but I got thrown off the roof by Daniel Craig in Quantum of Solace. It was only one line, but I tell him to piss off. Originally, it was mute, and I said to the director, I said, not another mute stuntman getting thrown off a roof. He said, well, what would you say to him? I said, well, if he told me who I was working for and I wasn't supposed to say anything, I'd just tell him to piss off. And he went, I like it. Austria. I'm not doing him any favours either. But there was loads of phone calls back to London. Is that a swear word? No. Anyway, in the end, they let me say it. What other films have I done? I've done quite a few historical documentaries. That was a bit of a flavour of the month or flavour of the year at one point.
I saw some of that on your web. Weren't you a gladiator of some sort? Something with a loincloth and a sword, or maybe.
Yeah, I played Richard the Lionheart. Always ended up in the desert, though. I've been to the desert too many times.
That's why I see a heat theme. You're telling me that you're there enduring a heat wave while we're shooting this right now in Titanic. You're dealing with the fire in the boiler room and all of that. So many of the actors we speak to from Titanic talk about the scenes that were never used, what ended up in the editing room floor. You must have that same experience. What did you film that we didn't get to see?
None of it. It was all shown.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to do any ADR. Sometimes, because it was like I didn't even have to go into a booth. All the audio was as it was on the day as well. Because sometimes I'll do a scene in a film and I'll go, now depending on how it's edited, I wonder how that's going to turn out. And sometimes it's not even in the film at all, and you're like, or if they don't like your accent, you get dubbed, and that's the worst thing in the world for an actor when they dub you, because they don't think the accent.
Yeah, talk to is it David Prowse, who was Darth Vader, and he had his Devon accent, and he was doing all the lines all the way through, and then I went and saw the movie, and they dubbed me with James Earl Jones. He thought that was
That's,
most unusual. Why would you do that?
I was quite impressed that everything was still in the film, and as we shot it on the day, so that was good.
You know, Alexandra mentioned the scene where Kate and Leo are running through the ship, holding hands, and then we see you at work down there with the boilers. But there are certain moments that I'm struck by when I think back on the film that where James Cameron used slow motion and special effects, and where he sort of chose characters that he obviously looked at lovingly. And when Kate and Leo are running, it's kind of a love letter to their story. Just as Alexandra, when Leonardo's coming into the dining room, the camera sort of lovingly embraces Alexandra for that look. But you have that moment, Derek. It's like a love letter. The shots of you at work in the fire and going under the door, they do seem to have that, which makes me question what your relationship with Cameron was like. You must have had a very personal connection with him, as well as whoever the stunt coordinator was and the cinematographer.
I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with James at the beginning, and I think if you stand up to him, and he shows you respect. Obviously, you got to come up with the good. So he must have liked what I was doing on screen. So to give me those little moments, but it was a little bit rocky at the beginning.
How so?
There's a scene, well, that's in the film as well, where one lifeboat, and apparently this is true, Frederick Barrett saved a load of people underneath the
that's right,
coming down on top of another, and he cuts these ropes, they're called the falls apparently, and he cuts the falls. So this scene was coming up, I don't know, 2 days prior to that. There was another scene where someone had to cut a rope, and he got absolutely roasted by James Cameron because he wasn't doing it, he wasn't putting the energy in, he didn't believe it. And I've heard this, and I thought, oh God, we've got this scene coming up. So we're all in the lifeboat, and we've got the other lifeboat coming down. Obviously, that's all rigged and it's not going to go anywhere, but it is moving. And I've got these ropes. There's a pontoon with about 5 or 6 cameras directly in front of us out on the whatever you want to call it.
It was a tank. It was a tank.
A tank. Well done, Alexandra. It's a tank. So they're all there on the tank. There's about 5.
I'm a director now. I know all these technical terms.
He's giving me all these directions. You see it coming. You realise you've got a knife. You stand up. No one else is doing anything. I'm going, right. I see it coming. I realise I've got a knife. I stand up. And then you start cutting the falls. So I'm right. Okay. Here we go. And he loved the microphone. Here we go. Rolling. 3, 2, 1. Action. Got a knife. Jump up. Now, I'm going to cut these falls. He ain't going to have a go at me. And I'm going, no, cut them even faster. Nothing off. Not like that. The next thing, I look up and he's standing there going, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? I went, I was cutting the fall. He said, no, I was saying cut. And I said, well, I thought you meant cut. He said, when you see me throw my headphones on the floor, what does that mean? I said, well, I can't look at you, or else I'll be looking down the lens of the camera. And he's like, and that was the moment where he sort of, and I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, I'll be on the next plane home. But after that, he was absolutely brand new. Said hello to me every time I saw him, shook my hand, like, hi, Derek, how's it going? Oh, yeah, good. We've got another scene, saying the other. So, yeah, that was quite
I made a similar mistake on my first day because something hadn't been communicated to me. So you were like, you misinterpreting cut for cut.
Oh, I was in the moment.
I was hearing the screaming going on and get them off the effing set, off the set. And he was talking about me because I was walking straight into the wrong part of the shot. But I was doing what I've been doing since 9 a.m. that morning. Nobody told me to wiggle round the other way and be out of the way. and 25 years later, and all this, people want to hear these stories about James Cameron, what a monster he was. I mean, he had $200 million riding on his shoulder. He was, and I'm not making excuses for him, because it's really hard not to lose your temper. I've done it a couple of times, but I take myself to another room and try not, and for me, it's trying not to cry with the frustration and how can we overcome this situation. But there were hundreds of people there, the crew, the $100 bills were just evaporating in front of you. And good for you by pushing back and saying, look, Jim, this is actually the situation. Of course we do what we're told. As actors, we're going to do anything we're told to help the shot, unless we're going to put ourselves in danger or it feels uncomfortable or whatever. But I think, looking back, and he said it himself, I thought I had to yell at everybody. I thought that was what you did. That's how you got, stuff out of people. But his own maturity realizes that you can coax people into doing almost anything with you, and then they'll run off the edge of a cliff with you. But it's hard when there's all that pressure. And really, in Ship of Dreams, Titanic movie Diaries, I was kind of looking to delve into some of this stuff, and nobody really wanted to tell those stories. The overwhelming feeling was this was an extraordinary achievement, and to work with a director of that caliber on this movie was a mind-blowing, never to be repeated experience. And lucky us. That's what I say. And
how was it different? How was it different from the other films? Because you've done so many, Derek. How was Titanic special?
I like the diversity of people. I've done a lot of war films, like the historical documentaries. Do you know what I mean? It was just nice. It was nice. How many people were on the boat, Alexandra? I've got to be 300.
What? On the boat, 2,000.
On the 2,000.
He means in the film.
Filming.
The cast.
I mean.
Oh. You mean
there were all sorts?
How many actors?
There were all sorts of.
There were over 230 speaking roles. Yes.
Yes, so at any given time, with all the essays and everything, there could be at least 150, 200 people in some of the scenes everywhere, and he knew everybody's name, every single one of them's name, and he did shout and scream a lot. But like I say, I think his bark was worse than his bite. But for me, it was that diversity of people, men and women, and there were all sorts of people there. Well, in between takes, I got talking to people. One bloke he moved from California, and he invented something, patented it, and he was a multi-millionaire, and he was just doing it for the experience. And there was loads of people like that on the boat, and coming from England as well. My first time working over in it was Mexico, but meeting all these different people, you know what I mean? And I was young in my career. I don't travel as well now. I don't do long runs anymore, but I thought it was fantastic.
So many of the actors tell us about their life on the set in Mexico, and partying and drinking margaritas seems to come up a lot, and back and forth to Los Angeles seems to come up a lot. Tell me about life on the set. How long were you there, and did you have a certain workout regime that you have to do to keep in particular shape for that? Like, what was your time like in Mexico?
Because it went down at night, the majority, it was all shot at night. The Carpathia scene, I went from night work to daylight, because obviously they were rescued in the daytime. But the majority of the work was at night. They'd chosen that studio where there was a hill, so we used to sit and wait for the sun to come up over that hill. Once the sun come up, that was the end of our working night. Then we used to go back to the hotel, and that's when we got in that. That's when we used to have a little cool down drink and then go to bed. Then I'd get up and I'd run along the Pacific and do me training. Then we'd go in for breakfast, but the margaritas, the tequila, and everything, because we were working all night. When the weekends came, you were just like up all night. That was it. We were out and it was properly like the Wild West down in down there. And we used to drive down and go down into San Diego every now and again as well, and we went down to LA some weekends. So from that point of view, it was good. It was fun. I really enjoyed it.
How long were you there? What was your stint on the set?
I can't remember. My wife knows because well, she wasn't my wife at the time. I think I was there about 6 months, something like that. And I came back for Christmas and went back out there again.
There aren't many stuntmen that are recognizable, and and that's because you also acted in it. But you're definitely a recognizable guy, and 25 years later, you're doing something right. Maybe it's your multivitamin or something, because you still look like you, the you that we remember. Where does Titanic fit in your life now? Is it something you come across on television and watch? Where does it fit in here in 2023?
It fits in as an achievement in my career. I haven't seen it for a long time. My kids love the fact that I'm in it, because everyone sort of is on. The next thing you know, all their mates are talking about it. Brilliant to be a part of it. Absolutely, it was fantastic. So.
I mean, if they're proud of their dad and love to see it, how old are they? I mean, is it part of their lives, Titanic?
Well, but do you know what? I've never asked them. One of them's 21, the other one's 14. So I don't think they're Titaniacs, but they might be undercover ones. I don't know.
I want to also point out that Derek is my personal hero, because on what was actually my second short film, I chose this incredibly ambitious subject, which was a 1919 boxing match. It was about a young man who'd come back from the First World War, and he was in a sort of fight for his life. And I was a brand new director. I was sort of producing it as well, and Derek's name had come up with another actor, and I was like, Derek, I never met him on Titanic, but oh my gosh, give me his number, because I needed these boxing sequences to be choreographed. And it was a very stressful week prior to that, because there had been some issue with the set and with the producer I had been working with, and I'd had to change horses sort of midstream. And it was the day of, and here comes this very sophisticated Steadicam guy, and the actors are there, and we've got their little vintage, boxing shorts and leather boxing gloves, and I've got their coach is being played by a real retired champion boxer, and I'm like, oh god, it's awful. And then Derek walks in, and your motorbike stuff, like with your helmet under your arm, like this hero's like, it's all right, we're going to sort it out now. Oh, everything's going to be all right. And then there was a moment when it was getting towards the end of the day, and first AD was like, right, Alexandra, do we have all these boxing sequences? I think we're done, aren't we? And I go, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we haven't done the victory bit where he does the thing and the whatchamacallit. And I go, Derek, we haven't. He goes, it's all right. They've learnt it. We learnt it off at the corner there. And once again, you saved the day. Oh, and my gosh, do you remember that boy fell over backwards and knocked himself out?
I do vaguely remember that. He fainted or something, didn't he?
Well, he had to do this sort of primal silent scream, and he was so...
There's a word for that when you do that. It's called something. It's like hyperventilating, and you can sort of...
And you see it, and it's all in 300 frames a second, so his eyeballs roll back in his head. You see like the breath go out of him, and he just literally falls backwards onto the canvas, and you go running up to him, start smacking his face just like a movie, and you go, it's all right, he just passed out, he just knocked off the oxygen to his brain. I've done that before, come on. And he got up and he finished the shot. Listen, what I'm trying to say, Derek, is it's the presence of a person like you, who is so experienced and so calm, and this is how you do it. These are the steps you take. It as a director and actors too. It just adds an incredible layer of something to a movie that the audience will never know or experience. And I just wanted to say that to you and to the stunt community, and to, all the departments that make up a shot or a movie in its entirety. And that's the thing that I'm constantly appreciative of as a writer, director, somebody who's trying to put something really wonderful together. So I never really got to say to you, because I always say, oh, Derek Lee is my hero. He did my boxing film. And it was just, and we've talked many times about maybe doing the feature version of it, but that's down the road. Hopefully we won't all be, in the retirement home by the time that happens.
Cheers, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, see, you played a hero on screen and you were a hero in real life. So
Hey.
we're all grateful for your work. That's a good. As I'm looking at the clock here, and we have to wind down. I would want to say that dereklee.co.uk is a place where we can find you. Lee being spelled L-E-A, and we'll also put a link to that here on the site as well. And I do encourage people to check out your incredible body of work. So much more than just Titanic, but for our sake, we're grateful that you had such a heroic role in Titanic and participated today.
Yes, thank you.
you.
And the next time everyone watches Titanic, they must watch out for you and read about that stoker, because it's a most wonderful story. Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. Cheers.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review. And if you'd like to hear more podcasts like this, hit the subscribe button. For information on where you can see Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, go to shipofdreamsfilm.com. Titanic Talk is a production of Ship of Dreams Film Limited.